All right, that the voice of Shelley Luther. Of course, it's made national news. You've got to know that by now. And of course, Judge Moye, he's made national news. Nobody can crawl inside his head and figure out what he was thinking. The state didn't put her in jail. The city didn't put her in jail. The judge put her in jail on a contempt charge. It's just that simple. Well, he flew to Dallas this morning. Yeah, he had talk about a commute to get your hair cut. Texas State Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, how you doing?
I am doing terrific. How are you doing?
I am well. I'm jealous. I've been needing a haircut for a couple of months now. I understand you just had one.
I just got one minutes ago.
Senator Cruz is, if you check television or listen to the radio, just got a haircut at Shelley Luther's place, the Salon a la Mode. She's taken up most of the news cycle, as you might imagine, the last couple of weeks. Senator, what's your position on this?
Well, I think what happened to Shelley Luther was a disgrace. It was wrong. She was sentenced to 7 days in jail for the crime of cutting hair. That's just crazy. It's not right. It's unjust. And even worse, the judge who sentenced her, who's an elected Democratic judge here in Dallas, at the sentencing hearing, he demanded that she apologize to elected officials, and if she apologized, presumably she wouldn't be sentenced to jail. Well, look, in the United States, elected officials don't get to demand of the citizens that they apologize to them. That's not the way it works. We work for the people and not the other way around. And so I was outraged by what I saw. I spoke out loudly at the time, and I was very glad yesterday to see the Texas Supreme Court step in and order Shelley Luther released from jail. She was released and opened up her shop this morning. And so I got on an airplane this morning and flew from Houston up to Dallas to go get a haircut. I needed one anyway. I hadn't had a haircut in about 3 months, so I needed one anyway, and I was proud to go to her shop and get a haircut.
Senator Cruz, I absolutely agree. You know, my main question at the time, it appeared that this judge, Judge Moye, maybe jumped the rails a little bit. At the time we were trying to clear the jails out because they've become a hot spot for the coronavirus, he's putting a single mother and a business owner in jail. That makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all. You look at, we've got local officials across Texas and across the country who are releasing violent criminals. They're releasing murderers. They're releasing child molesters. And we're trying to lock up people for running a small business, for cutting hair. It's crazy. And I'll tell you, down in the valley, that they've locked up 2 beauticians for doing the same things. And not only that, the police ran a sting operation to catch them. I mean, do we not have enough real criminals in the world that we have to devote law enforcement resources to trying to catch beauticians? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
No, it's insane. Absolutely. Senator, talking with Senator Ted Cruz, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. I know this is something that you're very passionate about. You wrote up an article, a very good op-ed, a blueprint for our economic recovery, and it really boiled down to 4 points, right?
Yep.
You know, that's something everybody is talking about, you know, not the least of which Shelley Luther. You know, how do we get back on track? You say point 1, reopening our economy and putting Americans back to work. That's the very first thing that needs to happen.
Absolutely. And listen, I think most Texans are interested in a balanced approach that reflects common sense. Look, we all want to stop this disease. We want to keep people safe. And so, for example, when I got the haircut today at Shelley Luther's shop, I wore a face mask. I wore gloves. She wore a face mask. The hairstylist, she wore a face mask. They used disinfectant on the chair before I sat down. The stylist used disinfectant on her hands. I mean, we can exercise all sorts of reasonable mitigation strategies to slow and try to prevent the spread of this virus. But at the same time, we have seen 34 million people lose their jobs in just 2 months.
Right.
That's 20% of the American workforce. That is producing suffering and misery, and we got to get people back to work. Texans want to get back to work. And I got to say, watching Shelley Luther in court when the judge demanded that she apologize, and she responded respectfully. She wasn't rude. She didn't yell. She just said, listen, I can't apologize for wanting to feed my kids. I can't apologize for wanting the people who work for me to be able to feed their kids. I mean, that's exactly right. And we've got to have a balanced approach that uses reasonable strategies to prevent the spread of the virus and at the same time lets people get back to work.
Amen. Amen, Senator. As a matter of fact, she had already been working with the governor's office. I spoke to Governor Abbott, and he said, this is not what we do. She didn't break a law. She ignored an order. Yep. We don't put people in jail for that. Then he had to go back and do another executive order just to make sure this didn't happen again with another overzealous judge, and I'm being kind with that. And I know you're headed to the airport. You've got to catch a flight. Before I let you go, I've got to ask, because you've been very vocal on this too. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Thank God it's not as bad as we initially thought it might be. Somebody's going to be held accountable. China has to be held accountable. What's your feeling on that?
China bears enormous responsibility, enormous culpability for this pandemic. The overwhelming preponderance of the evidence suggests that this virus escaped from one of two Chinese labs controlled by the Chinese government in the Wuhan region. Not only that, and that needs to be fully investigated to ascertain the facts and to determine with certainty what happened. But what we do know with certainty already is that the Chinese Communist Party actively suppressed, covered up, and silenced the news about this virus. There were heroic Chinese physician whistleblowers in December who tried to blow the whistle and shine a light on what was happening, and the Chinese government came down on them. They punished them. They silenced them. And, if the Chinese government had behaved like any responsible government, if they had sent in health professionals and quarantined the infected people, there is a very real possibility this could have been a regional outbreak instead of a global pandemic. And the over 250,000 people who have died worldwide, the trillions of dollars of economic devastation, in a very real sense, the Chinese Communist Party is the direct cause of those deaths and that suffering.
Well, Senator, I know we had the chance to speak to President Trump last week, and I know he is very, very adamant about making someone accountable. I know you feel the same way, and we appreciate what you do for the great state of Texas and all the Texans that live within our borders, and please just keep doing what you're doing, Senator.
You've got my word on it, Rick. Thank you, and thank you for standing up and speaking out for liberty.
Thank you, sir.
God bless.
God bless you. Senator Ted Cruz on News Talk 820 WBAP.